The silence of space was broken by a sudden, unexpected signal. An emergency transmission intercepted by Earth's top military forces. The transmission, sent from deep within the Galactic Empire's territory, was nothing like the standard communication they'd ever received. It wasn't a call for help from an ally or a friendly envoy. It was something far more terrifying. The signal was a distress call, but the sender was not from any known race. The sender was human. Inside a secure command room on Earth, the lead technician, Lieutenant Emily Carter, sat staring at the screen. Her fingers hesitated over the controls, eyes widening in disbelief. She wasn't the only one shocked. Around her, the military officers, engineers, and analysts looked at one another, their faces filled with confusion and concern. It was a human signal, but it had come from a location far beyond Earth's reach, an area deep within the Galactic Empire's domain. The signal grew clearer. At first, there was a distorted voice, gasping, echoing through the speakers. Then the face of a young woman appeared on the screen. It was Leela Carter, a young civilian who had been missing for months after an unexpected visit to a distant space station. Her body was bruised and battered, her face streaked with tears. Despite her obvious pain, there was fire in her eyes. Anger, defiance. I'm Leela Carter," she gasped, each word strained. "I don't have much time. Please, listen to me." The transmission flickered, and the camera angle shifted. The image on the screen changed to something far more horrifying. A lab, dark and cold, with high-tech instruments surrounding Leela. It looked like a science fiction nightmare. The lights were dim, casting long, eerie shadows across the walls. Her hands were shackled to a metal table, and strange alien machines hovered around her, attached to various parts of her body. Leela's voice trembled but remained strong. "They think we are weak. But they're wrong. They think we're just another species to be studied, another planet to conquer. But we're not. We can fight back. Help me. Help us all." Her words echoed through the speakers, and her pain, her desperation, was clear. She was trying to hold on, trying to stay strong, but it was evident the Empire had been torturing her. Experiments, tests, and unspeakable things being done to break her spirit. But it hadn't worked. She still had a message for Earth. She still had hope. As Leela's face faded from the screen, the transmission became a jumble of broken data. The signal was fading, her last words barely discernible. "It's coming. They're coming. The Empire." Then, the transmission cut out entirely, leaving only static. The room was dead silent. For a moment, no one moved. The reality of the situation sank in. The Galactic Empire was real, and it was far worse than anyone had imagined. Earth, once thought to be safe from the reaches of the galactic superpowers, was now on the radar of the most dangerous force in the universe. Lieutenant Emily Carter quickly adjusted the controls, trying to recover any remaining pieces of the transmission. But it was gone. The last fragments of the signal were lost, and Leela's message had ended. A strange heaviness filled the air, thick with tension. "I knew it," one of the senior officers muttered. "We've been too complacent. How do we even begin to fight something like that?" Another officer asked, voice full of disbelief. "We don't have a choice," Commander Alex Carter, Leela's older brother, said in a low, steady voice. His eyes were fixed on the screen, burning with a quiet fury. "We find a way, or Earth dies." The room shifted as all eyes turned to Alex. He was a man of action, but his face was pale, a trace of panic in his features that he quickly masked. Lila was his sister. He couldn't afford to let emotions cloud his judgment. Not now. He stood tall, his mind already racing with the possibilities. The Empire's forces were vast, and Leela's capture was just the beginning. He couldn't waste any more time. "We need a plan," Alex continued, his voice commanding. "I want every team assembled. All hands on deck. Earth will not fall without a fight." The others nodded, some hesitant but all determined. The room filled with activity as Earth's military command scrambled to formulate a response. But for Alex, one thing stood clear. The Galactic Empire had underestimated humanity. Earth was about to show them just how wrong they were. In the meantime, high above Earth, in the darkness of space, something far more ominous was unfolding. Deep within the heart of the Empire, hidden away in the shadows of its command fleet, a massive force of alien ships began to move. These ships, each one a colossal behemoth, were the size of cities. Their sleek, menacing forms glided silently toward Earth, their purpose clear. The invasion had begun. The Galactic Empire was not going to rest until Earth was crushed under their heel. As the alien fleet moved toward the solar system, an eerie silence settled over the battlefield. It was a moment of calm before the storm, but it didn't last long. Soon, the first signs of the Empire's advance began to show. A massive fleet of ships, each one larger and more advanced than anything humanity had ever encountered. They filled the screen, their deadly weapons powered up and ready to strike. The military officers aboard Earth's command station saw the incoming ships on their screens, their size and number overwhelming. Panic began to rise as the realization hit. Earth wasn't ready. They didn't have the forces to stand against such an overwhelming attack. The peaceful days of Earth's technological isolation were over. But in the midst of the chaos, Alex remembered something, a secret long buried beneath the surface of Earth. It was the only hope that humanity had left. A relic from Earth's past, an ancient fleet of warships that had been hidden away, forgotten by time. These ships, constructed by humanity's ancestors, were far more advanced than anything the Galactic Empire possessed. The only problem was, no one had known how to awaken them. Alex's thoughts sharpened. There was a way to win this fight, but it wasn't going to be easy. The ancient fleet had to be activated, and time was running out. The Empire's invasion force was closing in. Earth's fate rested on Alex's shoulders, and he would stop at nothing to find that fleet and unleash its power. The camera pulled back, showing the terrifying sight of the alien ships in the distance, moving ever closer. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and the only chance for survival lay in the activation of Earth's hidden fleet. But would they be able to do it in time? Commander Alex Carter stood at the front of the operations room, staring at the massive screens displaying the approaching alien fleet. His mind raced, heart pounding, but outwardly he remained composed. His team, gathered around him, was a mix of experts in various fields, but they all shared one thing in common: the heavy weight of what lay ahead. Earth was facing an enemy far beyond its means, and the future seemed uncertain. Alex had always been a man driven by duty, first to his country and then to his family. As the older brother of Leela Carter, the young woman whose cry for help had just echoed across space, he had been her protector. Growing up, he'd always been there for her, whether it was comforting her during a nightmare or supporting her dreams of space exploration. But now, Lila wasn't just missing. She was being tortured by the Galactic Empire, a cold and ruthless force from beyond the stars. The pressure of the situation was suffocating, and Alex felt it more than anyone in the room. His loyalty to his sister was unwavering, but as a commander, his loyalty to Earth came first. He had to protect his people. But how? The enemy was massive, and Earth was still technologically inferior. Their military forces were strong, but they weren't enough to face the advanced alien ships. There had to be something more, something hidden away. Alex's mind drifted back to the old legends, whispered rumors passed down through generations. There were stories of a fleet, an ancient fleet, built by humans during a forgotten war. No one knew for certain whether the fleet existed or if it was just a myth. But something deep within Alex stirred. He couldn't ignore the possibility. The fate of Earth depended on it. The moment he made up his mind, Alex ordered a complete scan of Earth's most remote locations. They were running out of time. The alien fleet was moving closer, and Earth's military strength was insufficient to fight them off. The only chance to survive was to activate the fleet that had been buried long ago. But where could it be hidden? And who had the knowledge to unlock its secrets? Weeks of exhaustive searching and digging through forgotten archives revealed something startling. The ancient fleet was real. It was buried beneath mountains and oceans, hidden from the rest of the world. No one had known about it, or at least no one had remembered. The fleet consisted of massive warships, far beyond anything that modern technology could produce. The ships were equipped with advanced AI, cloaking technology that could make them invisible to enemy detection, and weapons capable of destroying entire fleets in a single strike. It was humanity's greatest secret. When the news broke to the team, it was as if the weight of the world had shifted. The operation to unearth and activate the fleet would be nothing short of dangerous. Alex understood this better than anyone. They were walking into the unknown. The chances of failure were high, and the risk was almost too much to bear. But what choice did they have? Earth was on the brink of annihilation, and the time to act was now. Alex stood before his team, his eyes scanning each face. He could feel the tension in the air, a palpable energy of fear and uncertainty. But there was no room for doubt. He had to be the one to lead them. He was the commander. He had to inspire confidence, even if his own heart was heavy with the weight of responsibility. "Listen up," he said, his voice firm and steady. "We've just uncovered something that could change everything. An ancient fleet, built by our ancestors during a war we've long forgotten. These ships are the key to our survival. We've been given a chance. Our mission is to activate them. And we're not backing down. I know the odds are stacked against us, but if we don't act now, we lose everything." His words were met with a mixture of determination and uncertainty. Some of the soldiers exchanged nervous glances. Others nodded, ready to do whatever it took. But Alex could see the hesitation in their eyes. They weren't sure if they could trust him. After all, they had been living in a time of peace for so long. The idea of humanity's ancient fleet was something out of a fairy tale for most of them. But Alex was different. He had grown up on the stories of Earth's greatness, of its ancient warriors who fought to defend the planet from invaders. He believed in the myth, in the possibility that humanity could overcome any obstacle. "We don't have time for doubts," Alex continued, pacing before the team. "The Galactic Empire is coming. They've already attacked our people, and they've taken my sister. I swear to you, I'm not going to let them destroy Earth. We will activate this fleet, and we will fight back." The room went silent. It wasn't just a military mission anymore. For Alex, it was personal. Lila was his sister, his blood, and he was determined to bring her home. But as he looked at the faces of his team, he knew they all had their own reasons for being there. Some had lost family, others friends. The thought of an overwhelming alien empire invading Earth was enough to stir the deepest emotions. The stakes were higher than ever before. The mission was set. The operation would begin in the morning. But Alex couldn't sleep that night. He found himself standing alone, staring out over the city. The lights of Earth twinkled below, serene and peaceful, completely unaware of the darkness that was heading its way. As he looked out at the stars, his mind drifted back to Lila. She had always been the one to dream, to imagine a life beyond Earth. And now she was out there, in the clutches of the Empire. The thought of her suffering was unbearable. He had to save her, no matter the cost. His fists clenched. Anger swelled within him, mixing with a sense of helplessness. He could feel the tears threatening to surface, but he forced them back. He couldn't afford to show weakness. His people were depending on him, and he had to be strong. "I swear, Lila," he whispered, "I will come for you, no matter what it takes." The next morning, Alex led his team deep beneath the Earth's surface, to the location where the fleet had been buried. It was a place that had been untouched for centuries, its existence a secret only known to a select few. The entrance was hidden within an ancient mountain range, far from civilization. As they descended into the heart of the Earth, Alex's heart raced. They arrived at the site, where the massive doors of a long-forgotten bunker stood before them, ready to be opened. This was it. The fleet was here, and with it, humanity's last hope. The door creaked open, revealing a sprawling complex hidden deep underground. As they entered, Alex's eyes widened in awe. Before them lay the fleet, enormous ships resting in their dormant state, untouched by time. Advanced AI systems hummed quietly, awaiting activation. Alex's voice was barely a whisper as he gazed at the fleet. "We did it. We found it." But as they prepared to activate the ships, a voice broke through the silence. "Commander Carter," a voice crackled over the intercom. "The Empire is already here." The underground command center hummed with activity as Commander Alex Carter and his team worked tirelessly to bring Earth's ancient fleet online. The massive warships, hidden beneath mountains and oceans for centuries, were finally being awakened. Alex couldn't help but feel a strange mix of awe and disbelief as the colossal ships began to rise from their buried locations. This fleet, once thought to be nothing more than a myth, was humanity's last hope. And now, it was ready to fight. The scene was nothing short of cinematic. The enormous ships, some larger than any known vessel on Earth, slowly emerged from the depths of their secret bunkers. As they rose, the surrounding landscape seemed to shift, revealing long-forgotten entrances hidden beneath the Earth's surface. Alex stood in awe, watching as the ancient fleet began to stretch into the sky, a symbol of human resilience and defiance. These ships, designed for a war long past, were humanity's final weapon against the Galactic Empire. Each ship was equipped with the most advanced technology of its time. AI systems capable of running entire fleets autonomously, cloaking devices that could render the ships invisible to enemy detection, and weapons powerful enough to turn the tide of any battle. These were not just ships. They were instruments of war, designed for the sole purpose of protecting Earth from invaders. And now, Earth needed them more than ever. Around Alex, his team of engineers, AI specialists, and soldiers worked around the clock. The engineers were busy bringing the ship's ancient systems online, while the AI experts interfaced with the fleet's dormant artificial intelligence, ensuring that everything was up and running smoothly. The soldiers were preparing for the battle ahead, sharpening their skills, and ensuring that they were ready for the fight of their lives. Every moment was crucial. Time was running out. The Empire was coming, and Earth's future depended on this fleet. Alex stood at the heart of the command center, his gaze fixed on the screens in front of him. The glowing holograms displayed the fleet's status, and he could see that the ships were almost ready. His mind raced with the enormity of what they were about to face. The Galactic Empire, with its vast armies and technologically superior ships, was not an opponent to take lightly. But for Alex, this wasn't just about strategy or military tactics. It was personal. His sister, Leela, was out there, in the hands of the enemy. He had to save her. He had to fight. As the minutes ticked by, the tension in the room grew. Everyone knew that once they launched, there would be no turning back. The ancient fleet was humanity's final stand against the Empire, and the battle would not be easy. The mood was serious, but Alex could see the determination in the eyes of his team. They were all in this together. Finally, the moment came. The fleet was ready for launch. Alex turned to his team and gave the order. "Launch the fleet. Let's take back our world." The command was given, and one by one, the ships lifted off, their massive engines roaring to life as they ascended into the sky. Alex watched as the fleet climbed higher, its silhouette against the stars growing smaller as it left Earth's atmosphere. It was a sight to behold. Humanity's ancient power rising once again to defend the planet. But Alex knew that the real battle had only just begun. As the fleet neared the edge of Earth's atmosphere, a sudden blip appeared on the radar. It was a single scout ship, small and fast, but enough to signal that the Empire was already aware of their movements. The scout ship was close, too close for comfort, and it was rapidly closing the distance. The AI systems on the fleet's lead ship activated immediately, sending out a warning. "We've been detected," one of the AI experts reported, his voice steady but tense. "They know we're coming." Alex's heart skipped a beat. He knew that the Empire's scouts were only the first wave of what would come next. If they didn't act fast, the fleet would be exposed and destroyed before it even had a chance to engage the full force of the Galactic Empire. The scout ship had to be dealt with, and quickly. "Activate cloaking devices," Alex ordered. The fleet's ships flickered briefly, then vanished from sight, cloaked by their advanced technology. It was a risky move, using cloaking technology in open space, but it was their best chance to avoid detection. The scout ship, however, wasn't fooled. It had detected the fleet's movements, and now it was in pursuit, firing its weapons in an attempt to disable the ships before they could escape. The fleet had no choice but to fight back. The battle was fast and furious. The human fleet's cloaking devices allowed them to remain invisible, but the Empire's scout ship was fast, and it wasn't about to let them go without a fight. The fleet's weapons systems activated, sending blasts of energy toward the scout ship, but the alien vessel was agile, dodging each attack with precision. The fleet's lead ship fired a devastating energy beam, but the scout ship evaded it just in time. "Target its engines," Alex shouted. He watched as the fleet's ships engaged in a high-speed chase, weaving through the stars as they tried to outmaneuver the Empire's scout. The human ships were smaller and more agile, but the Empire's ship had advanced technology that made it a formidable opponent. With a sharp jolt, the lead ship fired a missile that locked onto the scout ship's engine. The missile hit, and the explosion sent the scout ship tumbling into space, its lights flickering out as it spiraled toward the void. For a moment, everything was still. The fleet held its breath. "We did it," one of the soldiers said, a mix of relief and excitement in his voice. But Alex wasn't fooled. This was just the beginning. The scout ship was only the first obstacle in a much larger war. The real battle was yet to come. The fleet continued its journey, leaving the remnants of the destroyed scout ship behind. Alex glanced out the window of the lead ship, watching as Earth grew smaller and smaller in the distance. He knew they had won this small skirmish, but the real fight was ahead. The Galactic Empire was relentless, and they would not stop until they had conquered Earth. As the fleet entered deep space, heading toward the heart of the Empire's territory, Alex's mind was focused on one thing: his sister. The Empire had taken her, and now it was time to make them pay. He wouldn't rest until Leela was safe. She was the reason he fought, the reason he had risked everything to activate the ancient fleet. He turned to his team, his expression hardening with determination. "Prepare for the next phase. We're going to take the fight to them. Earth's not going down without a fight." The fleet moved forward, cloaked and hidden, as the stars stretched out before them. The fight had just begun, but Alex knew that with the ancient fleet at their side, humanity had a fighting chance. The space between Earth and the Galactic Empire's stronghold was alive with tension. The ancient fleet, now fully activated and cloaked in invisibility, made its way toward the heart of the enemy's territory. The ships, though smaller than the Empire's vast armada, were equipped with advanced AI, cloaking technology, and powerful weapons, making them more than a match for the Empire's scouts. Alex Carter, commander of Earth's forces, sat at the helm of the lead ship, eyes fixed on the path ahead. "We're almost there," Alex muttered, his voice steady but tense. His thoughts were consumed with the mission ahead, rescuing his sister Leela and taking the fight directly to the heart of the Galactic Empire. The enormity of what they were about to do wasn't lost on him, but he couldn't afford distractions. He couldn't afford to lose this fight, not when Layla's life and the future of humanity hung in the balance. The fleet moved silently through space, each ship in perfect formation, invisible to the naked eye. Thanks to the powerful cloaking devices, the enemy wouldn't see them coming until it was too late. The plan was simple: infiltrate the heart of the Empire's stronghold, rescue Leela, and then destroy their command ship. With the fleet's firepower and their superior tactics, they stood a chance. But the danger was immense, and the outcome uncertain. The tension was palpable as Alex's fleet neared the enemy's stronghold. The gigantic armada of the Galactic Empire loomed ahead, a sea of ships hovering around a massive, heavily fortified station. Their weapons were primed, their forces numerous, and their power overwhelming. But they were about to face something they never expected, a human fleet armed with the oldest and most advanced technology Earth had to offer. Without warning, the Empire's ships began to break formation, as if sensing the approaching danger. The Empire had finally detected them. The scouts must have sent a signal ahead, alerting the Armada to their presence. But it was too late to stop them now. "Engage at will," Alex commanded. The moment the cloaking devices were deactivated, the fleet's powerful weapons opened fire, lighting up the dark expanse of space. Explosions erupted in the distance as the human ships dove into the heart of the Empire's armada, cutting through the enemy lines with precision. Though outnumbered, the human fleet was relentless, firing laser beams and missiles with deadly accuracy. Their attacks were swift, and their cloaking technology allowed them to remain unseen for crucial moments, catching the Empire's ships off guard. The sheer power of the attack sent shockwaves through the enemy forces. "Keep up the pressure," Alex shouted as his ship weaved through a barrage of incoming fire. His hands gripped the controls tightly as the ship dodged, swerved, and fired back with relentless precision. The Empire's ships, massive as they were, struggled to keep up with the agility of the human fleet. Despite their technological superiority, the Empire's forces were now being forced into a desperate defense. The battle raged on, a violent clash of futuristic technology and raw human determination. But even as the fleet engaged the Empire's armada, Alex's mission was far from over. His focus shifted to a more personal goal: rescuing his sister, Leela, from the clutches of the Galactic Empire. Lila's fate was tied to the heart of the Empire's strongest ship, a massive flagship that had been holding her captive. Alex and his elite team of soldiers were tasked with infiltrating that very ship and freeing her. As the battle continued in the vastness of space, Alex's team boarded one of the fleet's stealth ships and moved swiftly toward the Empire's flagship. The small, nimble ship was designed for covert operations, and the team would need every advantage to survive what awaited them inside. Alex glanced at his team, their faces set with determination. The time had come. This was the most dangerous part of the mission. "We're going in," Alex said quietly, looking over his shoulder to his team. "Stay sharp." The stealth ship flew into the heart of the enemy stronghold, slipping through the defenses undetected. The sound of battle raged outside, but inside, there was a haunting stillness as they approached the flagship. Alex's thoughts were consumed by one thing: Lila. He couldn't lose her. He wouldn't lose her. They docked on the flagship's outer hull, and after a tense moment, the hatch opened, revealing a narrow corridor. The ship was massive, its hallways lined with cold, metallic walls. The air was thick with the smell of oil and burnt machinery. The only sound was the soft hum of the ship's systems and the distant echoes of explosions. Alex and his team moved swiftly through the corridors, weapons raised, eyes scanning for any signs of enemy movement. Every corner could hold an ambush, and they couldn't afford to be caught off guard. The first wave of enemy soldiers came at them unexpectedly. The Empire's soldiers were equipped with high-tech armor and weapons, but Alex and his team were ready. With precise, calculated movements, they cut through the enemy ranks, using advanced weaponry and tactics to stay one step ahead. But the numbers were against them. For every soldier they took down, two more seemed to appear. In the midst of the chaos, Alex's mind was fixed on the mission. His heart raced as they neared the holding cells where Layla was being kept. He could almost see her, hear her voice, every step bringing him closer to rescuing her. But as they entered the central control room, disaster struck. A group of heavily armed Empire soldiers ambushed them, and in the ensuing firefight, Alex's closest soldier, Bonner, was struck down. He fell to the floor, his body crumpling in a heap. Alex froze for a split second, his heart skipping a beat as he saw his friend and comrade fall. Bonner had been with him since the beginning of the war. They had shared countless battles together, and now he was gone. Bonner, Alex shouted, rushing to his fallen friend. But there was no time. The fight wasn't over. His team was outnumbered, and Bonner's sacrifice couldn't be in vain. With a heavy heart, Alex turned and fought on. His anger burned with the loss of his friend, but it gave him the strength to push forward. The battle had become personal. Every step was a reminder of what was at stake. The Galactic Empire had to be stopped, no matter the cost. The team pressed forward, overcoming wave after wave of enemy soldiers. The fight was brutal, close-quarters combat at its finest. The enemy soldiers were relentless, but Alex's team was fueled by the desire to save Layla and avenge Bonner's death. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they'd reached the holding cells. Alex found Leela, chained to the wall, her face pale but determined. Her eyes locked onto his, and for a moment, the chaos around them seemed to disappear. "Alex," she whispered, her voice weak but full of hope. "You came for me." "We came for you," Alex said, his voice filled with both relief and sorrow. But there was no time for reunions. They had to get out, now. As the team made their way back to the ship, the Empire's forces closed in. The battle was far from over, and Bonner's sacrifice would not be in vain. Alex knew that the future of humanity depended on them. They had to survive. They had to fight. And they would. For Earth. For Leela. For Bonner. The battle raged outside, explosions and lasers filling the space around them as Alex and his team navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the Empire's flagship. The walls trembled with the force of their enemies' counterattacks, but they were unstoppable. They had one goal in mind, to rescue Leela, and to bring an end to the Empire's reign of terror once and for all. Alex's heart was racing as they approached the holding cells. Every step brought him closer to his sister, but it also reminded him of the danger they faced. The Empire's forces were closing in, and they couldn't afford to waste any more time. Alex could almost feel the weight of Bonner's death pushing him forward. He wasn't just fighting for Earth anymore, but for every life the Empire had taken. They had to win, no matter what. Finally, they'd reached the cell where Leela was being held. The sight of her, chained to the wall, pale and bruised, made Alex's stomach twist. Her body was covered in cuts and burns from the Empire's brutal methods, but despite everything, her eyes were filled with hope. She hadn't given up. That thought gave him the strength to keep moving, to push through the pain of losing Bonner and the fear that he might lose her too. "Leela." Alex's voice broke as he rushed to her side. He knelt down beside her, his hands shaking as he undid the chains that held her. "I knew you'd come," Leela whispered, her voice weak but full of warmth. "I knew you wouldn't leave me behind." Alex smiled through the pain, but it quickly faded as the reality of their situation hit him. "We have to get you out of here," he said urgently. "Hold on, Leela. Just a little longer." Leela nodded weakly, but she was in no condition to move on her own. Blood dripped from the wounds across her body, and her breathing was shallow. Still, the strength in her eyes, the fierce will to survive, fueled Alex's determination. He lifted her into his arms, ignoring the pain in his own body as he carried her. "Stay with me," he murmured, his voice a promise. "I won't let anything happen to you." The team moved swiftly, every second feeling like an eternity. They fought their way back through the ship, enemy soldiers pouring in from every direction. The Empire had thrown everything they had at them, but Alex and his team were relentless. The explosions, the flashes of lasers, the screams of battle, it all felt like a blur as they made their way back to the escape ship. They were close. The hatch to their escape craft was just ahead, but it was guarded by a massive group of Empire soldiers. They couldn't afford to lose Leela now. Alex ordered his team to take cover as they prepared for the final assault. They had come so far. Nothing could stop them now. The sound of gunfire filled the air, and Alex's heart pounded in his chest. The soldiers were closing in, but Alex wasn't about to let them take his sister again. He signaled to his team, and together they launched an all-out attack. The air was thick with smoke and the scent of burning metal as the soldiers clashed, their weapons flashing in the dim light. Alex's team fought with everything they had, their movements coordinated and precise. They had to survive. They had to save Leela. One by one, the Empire's soldiers fell. But just as victory seemed within reach, a massive explosion shook the corridor. The ground beneath their feet trembled, and the escape ship's hatch suddenly slammed shut. The Empire had deployed an emergency lockdown. They were trapped. Alex felt a surge of anger. He wouldn't be stopped. Not now. Not after everything they had been through. He looked at his team, his eyes burning with determination. We're not giving up. Not now. Get to the control room. We'll take the ship from them. With that, they made their way through the corridors once more, fighting their way to the heart of the flagship. The enemy was everywhere, but Alex and his team were unstoppable. They moved as one, their bond stronger than any weapon the Empire could throw at them. Each step brought them closer to their goal, to end the Empire's reign once and for all. At last, they reached the control room. It was guarded by the Empire's elite soldiers, but Alex's team was ready. A fierce firefight erupted, with lasers and bullets flying through the air. Alex's heart raced as he led the charge, cutting through the enemy lines with deadly precision. The sound of explosions was deafening, but they pushed forward, step by step, until they reached the control panel. Alex's hands flew over the controls, working quickly to override the lockdown and release the ship's systems. But just as he was about to finish, a chilling voice interrupted him. "Do you think you can stop me?" The voice came from the ship's AI overlord, a cold, calculating intelligence that had orchestrated the torture of countless humans. The voice echoed in Alex's mind, sending a shiver down his spine. "You're too late. I've already won." Alex's eyes narrowed. "You haven't won yet. Not while I'm still breathing." The AI overlord's voice grew colder. "You are nothing but a fleeting moment in the grand scheme of the universe. Your resistance means nothing. The Empire will prevail, and your pathetic little planet will fall like all the others." Alex gritted his teeth. "You're wrong. You've underestimated humanity for too long. We don't give up. We fight for what's ours." With that, Alex slammed his fist onto the control panel, initiating a full-scale attack on the Empire's command ship. The ship trembled as the ancient fleet's weapons came online, ready to unleash destruction on their enemies. The AI overlord's voice screamed in fury, but it was too late. The fleet's firepower tore through the command ship's defenses, sending shockwaves through the entire station. Explosions rocked the flagship as the once mighty Empire's stronghold began to crumble. The final confrontation had begun. Outside, the battle raged on as the ancient fleet clashed with the Empire's forces. Human ships, smaller and outnumbered, fought with everything they had. Their hearts burned with the desire for survival, for vengeance, and for the protection of their loved ones. Despite being technologically inferior, the humans' will to fight was unmatched. As the flagship began to fall apart, Alex turned to Leela, his eyes filled with both relief and sorrow. "We're going to make it," he promised, his voice fierce with determination. "We're going to make sure no one ever hurts Earth again." And with that, the final blow was struck. The Empire's command ship was destroyed in a brilliant explosion, signaling the fall of an empire that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries. The humans had won. But the cost was high. Alex and his team had lost friends along the way, and the battle had taken its toll on them all. Yet as they looked at the smoldering remains of the Empire's flagship, they knew that their fight had been worth it. They had faced the cold logic of an artificial intelligence, and they had proven that the human spirit was stronger. Against all odds, humanity had triumphed, and Earth was safe once more. The final battle was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. The once mighty Galactic Empire, which had spread its power across countless star systems, was now a broken shell of its former self. Earth's ancient fleet, now fully activated and running at full power, had completely disabled the Empire's command center. The Empire's once glorious fleet lay in ruins, its forces scattered and crippled. Humanity had won, but victory had come at a great cost. The battlefield was silent now, except for the distant hum of Earth's ships. The intense energy from the weapons fire had long since died down, leaving behind the smoking wreckage of the Empire's ships, which once threatened to wipe out entire civilizations. Humanity had pushed back against an overwhelming force and emerged victorious, but it hadn't come without sacrifice. Alex stood on the bridge of the lead warship, his face expressionless as he looked out at the debris. The fight had been brutal, and the aftermath was haunting. The cost of their victory was something they would all carry with them for the rest of their lives. The loss of Bonner, his closest friend, weighed heavily on him. Bonner had given his life to ensure they could complete their mission. It was a sacrifice Alex would never forget. Beside him, Layla was recovering from the brutal ordeal she had endured. Though she was still weak, she was alive. Alex's heart swelled with relief every time he looked at her. She was the reason they had fought so fiercely. They had come so close to losing her, but now she was safe. For a moment, Alex allowed himself to close his eyes and savor the quiet relief that had settled over him. The war was over. Earth had won. Yet, the silence of victory felt hollow. So many had been lost, and so much destruction had been caused in the wake of the Empire's defeat. Alex thought of Bonner again, and the countless other soldiers who had died to secure this win. His mind was heavy with the burden of their sacrifices. They had all given everything for this moment, and he would never take it for granted. The ship's crew, his team, moved silently around him. They, too, were feeling the weight of the cost. They had fought together, built together, and now they stood victorious. But the true price of their triumph was something they could never forget. Alex shifted his gaze to the horizon, where Earth's fleet was assembling. The ships were battered, scared by the intense battle, but they were still standing. The fleet, once hidden away in secret bases beneath mountains and oceans, was now the most powerful force in the galaxy. Humanity had proven itself, and the Empire, which had once dismissed Earth as a weak, insignificant planet, would never make that mistake again. His thoughts were interrupted when Lila slowly approached him, her steps unsteady but determined. She had been through so much, and yet she was still standing. Alex smiled at her, though it was a tired, weary smile. She had been his strength throughout this ordeal, and now she was there to share in the peace they had won. "I'm sorry for what you went through," Alex said softly, his voice full of emotion. "But we did it. We're free." Leela nodded, though her face showed the pain of her past experiences. "We are free," she agreed, her voice quiet. "But we will never forget what it took to get here. Not the losses, not the sacrifices." Alex looked out at the stars, reflecting on the long journey that had brought them to this point. From the moment Earth had been attacked, everything had changed. They had fought for survival, for freedom, for each other. And now, standing on the brink of a new future, they had to honor the memories of those they had lost. "We won," Leela said, her voice stronger now. "But the war isn't over. The galaxy still needs us." Alex's eyes narrowed as he considered her words. The Empire was destroyed, yes, but there were other factions in the galaxy, other threats that could arise. The ancient fleet was powerful, but they would need more than just firepower to maintain peace. Humanity had learned it the hard way. This victory was only the beginning. They would have to rebuild, but they couldn't let their guard down. Leela looked at him, her expression firm. "We can't let what happened to us happen to anyone else. We need to stand as protectors now, not just survivors." Alex nodded, a sense of responsibility settling over him. They had emerged from the ashes of a destroyed world, but they couldn't let their victory be meaningless. They had to ensure the galaxy knew that humanity would no longer be a passive player. Earth would stand tall as a force to be reckoned with. The fight for survival had brought them together, and now they would fight for something more: justice, peace, and the protection of those who couldn't protect themselves. As the fleet regrouped, Alex addressed his team. He knew that it wasn't just about the battle they had won. It was about how they moved forward. They would carry the memories of their fallen comrades with them as they set out into the stars. The journey wasn't over, not by a long shot. The destruction of the Empire was a victory, but they knew that true peace would take time, effort, and sacrifice. "We've won the battle," Alex began, his voice firm but filled with emotion. "But the war is far from over. We have a duty now, to our fallen brothers and sisters, to Earth, to the galaxy." The crew stood silent, waiting for his next words. Their faces reflected the same resolve. They knew what had to be done. It wasn't just about defeating enemies. It was about ensuring that humanity had a future where they would never again be the underdogs. "We've proven our strength," Alex continued. "We've shown the galaxy that we will never be underestimated again. But we're more than just fighters. We're protectors. We're survivors. And we will stand strong together, no matter what comes next." Leela stood by his side, her hand resting on his arm. She looked up at him, her face filled with pride. "We've made history," she said softly. "But the future is ours to write." As Earth's fleet moved forward, the stars ahead no longer seemed as distant or as unreachable. The galaxy was vast, but humanity had earned its place in it. They had fought, they had lost, but they had never given up. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: Earth was no longer a weak, insignificant planet. They were a force to be reckoned with. The ancient fleet, once thought to be a myth, was now humanity's greatest weapon. The power that had been hidden beneath the surface for so long had been unleashed. And as Earth's ships traveled through space, their path illuminated by the glow of distant stars, Alex felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had faced the impossible and emerged victorious. And now they would face whatever came next, knowing that they were no longer just survivors. They were a new force in the galaxy. Humanity's triumph had come at a great cost, but it had also given them the chance to build a future that was theirs to shape. The road ahead would be difficult, but Alex knew they would face it together. No longer the underdogs, humanity had found its place among the stars, ready to fight for a future where they would never again be pushed to the brink of extinction. They had proven their strength, and now they would make sure that Earth's place in the galaxy would be secure forever.